Hello and welcome to session number 6 of The Peak, the virtual summit for Amazon sellers based in the MENA region, primarily in the Middle East. If you've ever thought about trademarking your product, potentially registering that trademark on Amazon for brand registration in order to obtain the valuable store on Amazon, or even to get EBC, enhanced brand content, and A+ content, and additionally be able to remove hijackers directly, then this is the session for you. In this session, we're going to be discussing trademarks, how to apply for trademarks, what are trademarks and the different variations of trademarks. And additionally, we're going to dive a little bit into taxes. Definitely, we're talking here about trademarking your brand in the US to be able to potentially use that trademark all over the world and anywhere there is an Amazon marketplace. So, to help me dissect this subject, we've got James Richards from Klemta. Hi, James. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm fantastic, and I'm very excited because I know trademarking is a very, very important subject for everyone.
Exactly. All of the brands we have experience working with down at the way they need to apply for a trademark. So I'm glad we're talking about the issue right now.
Perfect. James, before we dive into the presentation, let us know a little bit more about Klemta.
So Klemta is a website that you can log into. You will get a user dashboard. You will log in, get in, form your company, get your tax number, receive your bank account, and afterwards we can also do your accounting and any kind of filing that you will deal with over the years. So it's a complete business platform where a business owner can come in, form their business, and leave the operations to Klemta consultants or tax professionals like CPAs.
Perfect. Primarily for the US market, of course.
Definitely. It's solely the US market.
Yeah, solely, not primarily, solely.
Exactly. Let's get started. Let's talk about trademarks. So let's start with the simples of what is a trademark. We see a lot of people confusing the facts about trademarks. What's a patent? What's a copyright? So I will dive into all of those issues, but let's keep it simple. A trademark is a phrase, word, symbol, device, or even a color that you can apply with USPTO to get a trademark. What do I mean by that? You see all these logos down there we all know, like Microsoft, Coca-Cola. They have trademarked their name, brand name, and you can see a little R. If you see my mouse over here, you see that R under the Coca-Cola. That R stands for registered. If your trademark application gets approved by the USPTO, you get deemed with that R logo and you can put it on your logo. Before that, you will see all the brands using the letters T and M, which stands for trademarked. So if a company is using TM, that means they applied for a trademark or they're going to apply for a trademark, but they haven't got registered yet.
Yeah.
And I will talk about the examples over here a little bit. You see that Coca-Cola and Microsoft are different in color. Coca-Cola has this fancy way of writing Coca-Cola, but Microsoft kept it quite simple, other than the small slash between micro and soft.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Coca-Cola didn't only apply for a trademark for the name Coca-Cola. They also applied with the specific way of writing Coca-Cola and the color associated with it. As long as
better known as a logo.
Exactly. So if there are more than one variables that a person or a business is applying for a trademark, it's considered stronger than the other ones. So if you look at the Microsoft one, it's quite weak, but Microsoft is a huge brand, so they have the brand awareness. They have all the cases to put against in front of you if you're applying for an infringement case against Microsoft. But as you can see, all the other brands, they have a logo, or they have a color and a font that they have picked for their brand. And most of my clients, when they come up and email me, they ask about trademarks, but most of the time they either need to apply for a patent or a copyright. So I'll just briefly talk about those two, distinct all of those from each other. As I said, I explained the trademark already, so I'm just going to simply put it: your brand name or the logo and the services you have provided can be trademarked. That's it. With the copyright, on the other hand, it's an artistic word or a literary work. So let's talk about all those songs that we might all know. Do you have any songs that we might know in common, so I can tell you what might be the copyright that they use?
No.
Okay. No, it's quite fine.
I know that the songs we use on our YouTube channel, we pay for so that they're not copyrighted. They are copyrighted basically, but we pay so we don't get copyrighted by YouTube.
Exactly. So I'll give you the example then. I asked just to make a conversation. That simple phrase we use, ice, ice, baby, in the US.
Yeah.
It is a copyright that was issued by the artist, and anyone who would like to use Ice Ice Baby actually has to apply and get approved by their application processes, and they pay a royalty to the owner, to the artist, or the agency they work with. Most of the artists sell their copyrights by the second or third year. And the patent at the end, it's the invention you protect, so the functionality of the product. So I'll give the example. Let's say you came up with a new vacuum cleaner. It's a new invention. It cleans the whole house better than the other ones. It's this nanotechnology, blah, blah, blah. So that vacuum cleaner and the functionality of the vacuum cleaner is protected by the patent application you make. That's the first
step. You've created a product.
Exactly. You created a product from scratch, or you improved the product to a certain point that it is a new product now. So if there's a new functionality, you can apply for a patent. Later on, you got the vacuum cleaner. We invented it. Everything is going great. We want to add a trademark, which is registering the name of the brand, let's say Crystal, as a trademark. And that's the second step. That's the logo, slogan, name of the brand. That's a trademark issue. And afterwards, let's say we're doing great. We're going on commercials in CNBC. We copyright the TV commercial that we have used. So that famous McDonald's example we have, I'm loving it, or the fire is calling you. Those kind of copyrights are completely different from trademarks, and the patents are completely different from the trademarks. So when we're applying for a trademark, it's usually the logo, slogan, or the combination of different aspects of a business that identifies the business unique from the other ones. There are two different trademarks, which we take it under the classes. First one is a trademark. We all know the logo, the brand, and the second one is a service mark. I will give you an example to explain what that means. So Airbus, the company that builds all the airplanes around the world, they provide a service. They let people fly on their planes. It's a service. So they have a service mark. It's an SM rather than TM under their logo. But once they're both registered, it goes to R, so it doesn't matter anymore. But if you're providing a service, you apply for a service mark rather than a trademark.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something to take into account, because USPTO with the applications, the approval process is anywhere between 6 months to 18 months. So you don't want to get back and change your application status from trademark to service mark and lose a couple months just doing a simple change.
You want to start off with the right type of application, meaning?
Exactly. Definitely talk to a professional. I know people love going on Google, learning stuff, trying to do it on their own. But before you do anything, just to save some time, talk to a professional, see what are your options, and double check yourself with someone who actually went through the education of doing these things. What can qualify as a trademark is a good question. It's a broad question, to be honest. I
Mhm.
generalized everything into 3 sections, but anything can contain a trademark aspect in it. Let's give a fun example. We all know those Play-Dohs, the doughs that
Mhm.
kids used to play back in 2000s, I guess. So that Play-Doh has a scent. Once you open the box, there's a scent that you get that's unique to the product, and it's a priority thing. When you open the box, you have this new, fresh dough smell that's not
Yeah.
coming out from any other Play-Doh. They actually trademarked the Play-Doh smell. That's one of the funny.
Really?
Yeah, the smell of a Play-Doh is trademarked, but you cannot usually, in most cases, trademark a smell, a scent.
Yeah.
Why? Most of the perfume manufacturers like Coco Chanel or Dolce
Mhm.
Gabbana, they can't really trademark the perfumes they have because that's the functionality of the product.
Mhm.
Perfume is nothing without the smell. So you can't trademark the essence of a product. That's a
Yeah.
patent. That's the main difference. But
Okay.
since the Play-Doh example the Play-Doh smell has nothing to do with the functionality of the product. The Play-Doh would be a fun thing to play with, although if it smelled different. So you can trademark that aspect in
Okay.
specific case scenarios. But other
So
than
they
that,
use that loophole basically.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Rather than applying for a patent and covering the smell in it, they protected their brand in a better scope, I would say, and
Yeah.
trademarked the smell and patented the
The product.
dough,
Yeah.
what they call it, the receipt of doing that dough.
Mhm.
But simply put, it's the words like "I'm loving it," Apple,
Mm.
Airbus, all these are trademarks. 3M, and all the masks that we use, N95, those are all trademarks
Mhm.
that we see on our daily lives. Like the bubble wrap. Bubble wrap didn't exist before the company who invented bubble wrap and called it bubble wrap. It's a trademark. It's not a name, to be honest.
That's fantastic. Everybody loves bubble wrap.
Yeah, I love bubble wrap, to be honest. And as I said, this styled marks, so the Coca-Cola, the writing of Coca-Cola with handwriting, color, and the combinations of words, pictures like the KFC guy holding the bucket, those are all distinctive marks, like the
Mhm.
Starbucks, the mermaid. If you
Mm.
put unique identifiers into a form of a logo, a name, put it a color, maybe added a smell like how Play-Doh did, you can trademark this and call it as your own. So they have a unique identified product base. I will, yeah, the examples are T-Mobile, UPS. We all know how
Mhm.
the logos might look. You can
Yeah.
close your eyes and you can see that the T-Mobile has that purplish kind of color, or UPS
Purple.
has that
Yeah.
yellow and brown,
Mhm.
dark brownish kind of
Mhm.
color. We all can see that. That's the brand awareness we take into account when applying for a trademark.
Mhm.
The main question, yeah, this is the fun part. While you're sitting down and trying to explain to your client, well, you came up with a new good name, but we can't really protect it, even though if we apply for a trademark and get approved. They don't understand what I usually explain to them. They go like, "What do you mean we got approved? I have a trademark." I'm like, everyone almost has a trademark if they have a brand that is making money. But let's talk about
Mm.
what's a strong mark. The strongest mark on this list that you will see, the titles are right over here, is the arbitrary and fanciful marks. What do I mean by that? The Kodak brand, the Kodak word means nothing.
Mhm.
Uh, there's nothing associated with Kodak in the photography business. So
Yeah.
the Apple has nothing to do with technology or computers or
Mhm.
iPhones. So if you have a name and a product that has nothing to do with each other, that's when a mark gets strong because you identified a unique connection between them, and it's hard for someone sitting on in their home to come up with this connection and make the same brand name and register it on their own. So that's what we call a strong mark. Klemta is one of them. Klemta does
Yeah.
not mean
Doesn't
anything.
mean anything. Yeah.
Exactly. So once we have an infringement case, I can sit down and explain to them, well, clemta doesn't mean anything. Let's come up with, how did you guys come up with this word? Because I can explain step by step how we came up with clemta, and we knew that it didn't mean anything. It was a strategic move.
So if, for example, Apple was a store that sold groceries, it wouldn't be the same as it is now, which is a company that sells computers and technology.
Okay, I will switch a couple of slides. I will come back since you asked that question. 1 second. There are different of classes when you're applying for a trademark. The first 34 classes, what I mean by classes, so music sector is a class, technology sector is a class, clothing sector is a class. So the first 34 classes, these are international classes, by the way, for each and every single country in the world. The first 34 involve goods and products like clothing, technology, and the 35 to 45 involve services like real estate or other services.
Accounting.
Yeah, those are the services. So while you're applying for a trademark, you pick one of these classes and you classify yourself as a technology firm, like how Apple did. But since we're talking about Apple, let's give the example. Apple had this infringement case from an old company called Apple, and the old company that has nothing to do with Apple we know right now actually won the case, stating that they were in the music sector way older than Apple was, so the Apple name cannot be used in the music sector. And Apple had an agreement with the company and agreed to stay out of the music sector till they came up with iMusic, and it disrupted the whole industry with iPods and everything else.
Yeah.
So they have a case still going on. The Apple we know will probably lose the case because they have no legs to stand on that case. Yeah, it's an interesting case to look at if you're a lawyer. I'll get back to the federal trademarks. In the US, the trademarks are divided into two sections. The first one is the state-based trademarks. So state of California offers trademarks, state of Wyoming offers trademarks. And there's a federal base of trademarks, which is a broader trademark protection for a brand name like McDonald's. The state trademarks, I'm advising everyone watching us right now, I do not advise you to apply for a state trademark. So since it's a quite narrow scope trademark, I don't think it will be in any good use. But if you're selling your products, let's say on Amazon, and you have already sold in more than a couple of states, so you shipped your first product to California, you shipped your second one to Texas, that's when you can actually apply for a trademark in a federal USPTO base. What do I mean by that? Without selling in multiple states, you can only apply for a state trademark in the US. That's something interesting to look at, because most of our clients knock on Klemta's door. They want to form a company and they want to do their trademark applications right away. And I look at them and I say, well, it's quite early right now since you're not selling in the US yet. And you should be in the commercial use before you can apply for a trademark that you can protect. But there's a solution. I'm going to come up to that. I'll switch a couple of slides and I'll talk about that right now. So while you're applying for a trademark, there's a huge form that you have to fill out. And there's a section called 1A and 1B. You have to put a small X on either 1A or 1B. 1A, it just says simply in use. So the USPTO...
You're already using it.
Exactly. USPTO expects you to prove that you're using the mark. And how you can prove that you're using the mark, if you have a website, if you're selling on Amazon, if you can show invoices or people you have bought your products from different states, that's quite fine. You are in use and you can apply for a federal trademark. But if you have a 1B application, you're stating that I have intent to use in the federal level. and which gives you 6 months to prove the federal government that you are selling your products or you have a plan to sell your products in the federal level. Within those 6 months, if you can prove that you have sold your product in more than one state, you get the approval. If you haven't yet, you have two options. First, you can drop your case, cancel your trademark application. Second, you can apply for an extension of another 6 months to show your case. But every extension you apply for, you have to prove that you're improving on the goal that you are selling at a federal level.
Which should be quite easy, James, if we are selling on Amazon, because obviously then it's all over the US.
Exactly. As long as you have a couple customers that have bought your product in multiple states, you should be fine. If you're on Etsy, Amazon, or any of those e-commerce websites, you're pretty good to go. And the federal mark applications, trademark applications, once you apply for, I'll go back and show you the mark. I'm loving it for McDonald's. You cannot change anything in that trademark. So if you're adding a comma next to I am, you're changing it. If you're adding, if you're putting the whole thing in the capital letters, you're changing it. If you're removing the it's and making it I'm loving them, you're changing it. So each one of those changes actually nullifies your trademark. So you have to apply for different trademarks for those changes. That's what I exactly stated over here. So if you applied for checkers, for neckties, you can't use checker or checkers.
The exclamation point.
Exactly.
So you basically need to really be clear on the brand that you want to use, the logo that you want to use, the word mark that you want to use, so that when you trademark it, that's it.
Exactly. If you want to get a trademark, that's not going to give you any pain. You have to be exact, you have to be clear, and you have to know that you'll be sticking to this mark and how it looks or how it sounds like for quite a while.
And that's why it's also potentially a good idea if you start selling, because obviously we're talking about Amazon here. You start selling, and when you're 100% sure this is the logo, this is the name, this is the class, then you can go ahead and do a trademark.
Exactly.
Great.
So while you're applying for a trademark, you have a couple options. You can pick a font, so how you actually type in the letters for checkers. You can put the checkers in blue. You can put it in green. You can add special characters. And all these changes are actually narrowing your chances down to protect your trademark. What do I mean by that? If you want the broadest protection, put all the letters you have in capital, leave them all black, leave the background white, so you can use it in different forms and different aspects since you don't have any font or specific color attached to the mark you have applied for. That's not the case for any of those McDonald's or KFC guys. They knew that they were going to use these marks exactly how they are. So they applied with the color, they applied with the specific font, and they haven't changed it over the years. And if they did, they applied for other trademarks for those new logos and names they come up with.
Yeah.
And the second aspect, the most important one, is the interstate commerce. So if your goods are not available in more than one state, but you're selling in multiple states, you might still face some problems. So if you're selling on Amazon, you don't have to worry about it. You're in a federal, I would say, US market. Your products will be available in almost every state. So you'll have no problems with that. But if you're outside of Amazon, if you have a website, make sure that you are visible in every single state first, and you have a clear button or a pricing list on your website that shows you have intent to sell your goods for everyone within the US or for more than one states.
Yeah.
Exactly. So How will the USPTO know if I'm using in-commerce or not? You will submit all the documentation, all the proof you have to show that you have been using the mark, you have used it successfully in more than one state, which means you can take some customer reviews, you can submit cases of other people with IPs, of course, with computer IPs that other people from other states have got onto your website, bought, purchased the product, and you have completed the purchase. There's no refunds. These kind of strong evidences will be submitted to USPTO to prove that you have been selling your product. Also, if you have a truck, let's say you're doing some moving business, you move houses. If you have a truck with your logo on and you have a TM under your logo, that's a proof too. So there's a lot of ways to prove that you have been using your mark and you want to register it as a trademark. Using commerce, we talked about it a little earlier, so I guess I will skip this one. But I told you if you don't have using commerce yet, I would definitely suggest you to create your trademark. First, do a search if your trademark is available. I'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
If it's available, put your TM under that mark. Put it on your van. Put it on put it on the bags you're sending. Put it on your boxes. Put it everywhere that you can. Put it on a T-shirt. Everyone looks at those companies like Twitter and Facebook funny when they have those T-shirts they're wearing while they're working. No, it starts as putting it as trademark so they can build the brand awareness. That's when a trademark actually gets strong in the eyes of the law. Always consider talking to our trademark specialists. Not all trademark specialists are lawyers. They don't have to be. There are courses that are legally available in the federal level, so you can take these courses and become trademark specialists. So if you're going to build a couple brands, if you're a serial entrepreneur, definitely take one of those courses and get into it. You'll apply for a lot of trademarks or reply to infringement cases. But if you're not going to do any of those, talk to a specialist, know about application 1A and 1B, and get ready to prove that you have been selling in a federal level or more than one state. And I talked about the colors, the fonts. Don't use any color or fonts unless you have a plan to use the trademark for a 10, 20-year lifespan. Definitely go for a black on black, capital letters, no specific font application. We talked about the classes. How long does it take? We talked about this briefly too, but I will mention it again. If everything goes well, what do I mean by if everything goes well? Usually the search part of the trademark is a tricky part. It shows how well the attorney you are working with has been educated about the trademark issues. So if they're just doing a simple Google search, then checking a couple trademark databases, you're probably working with someone in LegalZoom. So they're doing it for, let's say, $500, $600.
Or Fiverr.
You'll probably get into trouble. It will probably last more than 10 to 12 months to get a trademark approved. But if you have a complete background search on the mark that you're going to trademark, apply for a registration. If everything goes well, as in you searched, after a month, you know that there's nothing like that. Let's talk about the Klemta example. We applied for Klemta. We got approved in, let's say, it was around 8 months. We took long to search because we didn't know how to actually search similar sounds to Klemta. You're not just searching the word Klemta on the database. You're putting it into syllables, adding little letters or adding some syllables to make it sound different, but they appear the same. So adding a K rather than C, adding an E rather than A at the end. And you try all these variations to look if there's any infringement cases that you're going to face in the next couple of years. We searched for a month or two, and it took us 8 months to get an approval from USPTO. But if you're applying for a mark like I'm going to love them, probably McDonald's is going to come with an infringement case against you. So it's going to take quite a long while if you ever get approved. So There's a trademarkia.com. I actually had a talk with one of the owners while I was in Vancouver, Canada. They're a great company. They have a great database. They work with the federal database. You can get on. You can search for the marks you're looking for. So if you have, let's say, 10 options or 5 options, you can go on, search all these options, and they will give you even the similar ones with syllables or with color or font, and they will give you the whole idea about if your trademark is going to be approved without any problems. So I would definitely go and check it up. But this is, I'm stating it right over here, this is not the only way to check for a trademark. If you check on this website and everything seems okay,
You have
that
to
doesn't
do a
mean
big
everything
check.
is okay. Exactly. This is just a base point to start. So if you're curious about it, go check it up over here, then talk to a specialist so you don't also have to pay them for a simple search that they do. And the game plan, it's quite simple, to be honest. I know I talked about some technicalities, an arbitrary word, Apple, Google. It's not about any of those. If you have a good logo, name, or a brand name, let's say Amazon Seller Society, first you have to look into the idea that there's a huge brand called Amazon. So if you're adding that into your application, you're probably going to get some official letters stating that you should
That's why
stop.
we haven't trademarked it.
Exactly. So if you're going with something like that, talk to specialists. We can tweak those for you, and we can make it work, to be honest. Just because Amazon is a big brand doesn't mean they can take the word Amazon and no one in the world can trademark anything similar to it. So there's definitely tricks around it. But if it's an arbitrary thing, like let's say Kadunga or anything like that, you can do it. As long as there's nothing like that on the trademark database, it's the strongest mark that you can come up with, since it doesn't mean anything. Once you go on and check if it's available or not, you will see if it's available, everything is great. You can apply for a trademark even on your own. It's not a complicated process. The first time you might get scared. Am I doing this wrong? Am I doing that wrong? Talk to a specialist. You can even get free help from most of those websites that apply for a trademark. So get use of those chances that you have. If the mark is available, put the TM, the third game plan strategy, put the TM under your brand so you can show the whole commerce world that you're using the mark. So you have proof that back in July 2018, I put TM and I have a picture and a summit that I attended, and the first peak was happening there. So I have a picture with Christelle and I have TM under my logo. So that's a proof. These kind of proofs will actually be useful if anything comes up with the USPTO. And once your application is registered, change TM into R. So now you have the protection. If anyone uses your brand, they know that it's registered, so you can send straight infringement letters to their attorneys. And everyone has the same question. I applied for a trademark. I got approved. Everything is going great. So that's it. I have it protected for lifetime. No, you do not have it protected for lifetime. Every 10 years, you have to apply for Section 8 and renew your trademark. The application fees are quite low. If I'm not mistaken, it was $125 last time I checked. So every 10 years, you have $125 to pay and apply for the extension of the trademark. That's quite it on the trademark side. I can actually answer all the questions you have.
So, James, just as a recap, so for anyone who wants to trademark a brand name so that they can use it on Amazon with brand registration, you suggest that the first thing would be not to just jump on USPTO website and do like a little tiny search, or go to Google and do a search on Google. And if you don't find the name, then you're okay, and then you apply, because you might not have searched enough, and then it's gonna take longer than you should have. It's gonna take longer to get your brand trademarked.
Exactly. That's why I provided this website. I'm not affiliated or have anything to do with the
Yep.
website. I have used multiple databases over the years, but this website is probably the simplest way to have a start on how to search
Mhm.
for a trademark. So if you're looking for a starting point, this is where you should go. Once you make the check, you're good to go. Put the TM under your logo and start using your brand. So don't put any of your brand logo in any of those websites without the TM, and protect that mark. So if you're sending out an email, also upload that logo with the TM. All those track records will add up if you have an infringement case.
The second thing you said, which is very interesting, is related to the brand name itself. So, and we always talk about that whenever you want to build a brand, you want to try to create a name that means nothing, just like Klemta, for example. Because additionally, you might want to grow your brand. For example, you're selling I don't know, kitchen items today, and you might want to sell sporting goods tomorrow. So instead of having to create a whole new brand, then you can take that name and apply it on multiple products. So that's the same thing that you are suggesting when it comes to trademarking, because additionally, it's going to make your life easier. Instead of, for example, calling your brand Smart Kitchen, which is potentially a very tough brand name to trademark because it's very obvious, maybe call it, I don't know, something that means nothing.
Exactly. It doesn't necessarily, so it can mean something, but making kitchen products under the name Smart Kitchen is not the smart way to go. We can all have this sense. So if you're doing, let's say, I don't know, if you're into cosmetics business and you have a logo name, let's say something with water, it has nothing to do with the cosmetics. So that's okay too. Like Apple using Apple in the technology business. That's still strong too. But if
I
your word,
understand. So the word can mean something, but when you apply it to something different, it's not a problem.
exactly.
It
If
doesn't
the
have to be a made up word.
exactly. But the made up words are the strongest one out there. So I would go with the made up word first. If you can't come up with one, at least cut the association between the product and the trademark name.
Got you. So that would be the first step. And then when you apply to get a trademark, how much does it cost?
So the prices depend on the trademark, to be honest, and the toughness of the application. If the searching part will last for a couple of months, you'll probably pay for the hourly wage of the lawyer or the professional you're working with. But I would say anywhere between $600 to $2,000 is the cheapest and reliable trademark applications you will get with a professional.
Great. Now, the reason why we're focusing on trademarking in the US is because for Amazon, you can use a US trademark on any Amazon marketplace. Whereas if you trademark, for example, in the UAE, you can only use that trademark in the UAE. So potentially, if you're thinking of expanding, the US is a good place for you to trademark. However, you do also need to have a company in the US in order to trademark.
Yes, you do. You can have a company outside of US and still apply for USPTO as long as your company is selling within the state in more than one state. That's still fine. You can apply. So let's talk about those brands. Some of those brands that I mentioned are not from US. They can still apply for a trademark within the US.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be a US-based company.
Does not have to be a US-based company, no.
Perfect. We're going to be talking a little bit about taxes as well in the US, but we've got a question from Manoj. Can I apply for a trademark if they have an e-commerce trade license in the UAE? Do you have any information about that?
In the UAE, I don't, but I know that there is international agreements between countries. I'm not sure if UAE is included in the whole letter, but if you applied for a trademark in US and got approved, you have 6 months to apply for your trademark in different countries that you are doing business in. and they give you priority other than the other applicants with similar backgrounds and similar trademarks?
Manoj, I'll give you the answer. The answer is yes, and we've done it for multiple of our clients. Yeah, you can do that if you wanted to, for sure. Let's go a little bit into taxes, James.
Definitely. So let's start with the simple taxation in US. There's two levels of taxes in US, federal level and state level. Each state has different taxes like sales tax, state income tax, state corporate tax, or VAT. These rates are different in each and every state. Some people ask me, why is that? Why would different states have different tax rules? Well, let me tell you exactly why. New York has probably the largest has the largest economy in the US. So the people in there are making crazy money, paying crazy rent, and the government in New York is making quite a lot of money. And the tax rates are high in New York, so they can tax people and have amenities and roads built or bridges built or maintain the city with those taxes. So if the taxes are not high, New York is not capable of keeping that many people within the state. But when we look at Delaware, let's say, there's probably a couple million people living in Delaware. That's nothing compared to New York. So in that state, if you're not lowering the taxes like corporate income tax or state income taxes, you're actually missing out on the whole development and improvement of the state. So they do these small tweaks to attract investors and business people from all around the world to incorporate their businesses in the state so they can bring in extra income into economy. That's the main reason why there are two levels of taxes, and each state tax differs from each other. So state taxes.
So it makes a difference where you incorporate your company.
Definitely. When you look at Facebook, Yelp, Uber, they incorporated in Delaware, not just because they didn't want to do it in Silicon Valley. They knew that it was more advantageous to do it in Delaware rather than other places.
Yeah.
So the state taxes, as I said, they're different in each state. They have different rates. Most preferably, I would say Wyoming is the most lenient structure. Alaska, Wyoming, these are the places that you will find the lowest taxes. There are other states like Delaware and Texas. You'll find medium to normal level tax levels. So it won't go anywhere more than 6.6% for, let's say, income tax. But I will get to the real game. Everyone in US or non-residents or foreign company has to pay federal taxes if they're making any sort of income within the United States. And the federal tax levels are quite simple. They are fixed. If there is any changes happening, you will know ahead of the time. And there are rates like corporate income tax level in the United States has been 21% for years now. And that's not going to change anytime soon. Donald Trump, before he left the office, tried to change it to 28%. But no, it didn't happen. It's 21% still. I can't believe what would happen with that plus 7%. And how does this game work? So do I have to pay taxes for both state level, federal level? Well, what am I going to be left with? Let's talk about the reality. Let's say we made a couple $1 million this year, and the $1 million we made, we want to spend it. So we want to take it out of the company and we want to put it in our own pockets, go to a holiday maybe. Out of that $1 million, our company is going to pay that 21% corporate income tax if it's a C Corp. That's a must. After that 21%, we will be left with $790, $90,000. And with that $790,000, now we can actually go pay income tax and put it in our own pockets. So first, the company has to pay the taxes to relieve the money from the company taxes. And then we have to take that money, put it into our personal income tax statements, and be able to spend the money within the US. But this is the simple game for people residing and living in US. driving income within the United States. If you're a non-resident, and if you
Yes.
can show that you're a non-resident, you do not have to pay things like corporate income tax or state income tax in most of the scenarios. So it's people have this notion the U.S. is a tax heaven for non-residents. It's not quite like that, but it's also not like that too. So it's
Yeah.
somewhere in between.
It's not as bad as people think.
Exactly, exactly. But it's not like you don't pay any taxes in
Yeah.
US if you have a company in US. That doesn't work like that too.
So a question from Anish. He's asking if he sells in the US via Amazon. I'm just assuming if you are selling on Amazon.com, because there's no other way for you to sell in the US via Amazon other than having your products on Amazon.com, is it needed to pay income tax, assuming he is a non-resident?
My main question would be, is he selling to people within the United States, and is he doing it with his company in the United States? If the
Well,
answer
if
is
he
yes,
is a non-resident, which I know he is, he needs to have a company in order to sell on Amazon.com.
if the company is LLC, and
Yeah.
if the owner is not residing in the United States, there's a form called 1040, so 1040/NR, 1040/NR. Form 1040 is this income statement form in the federal level, and the NR stands for the non-residents. You can file this once a year and show that you're living outside of US, you have made some profit in the United States, but you are paying your taxes, let's say, I don't know, somewhere else in the world. As long as you have do these declarations, you do not have to have pay taxes in the United States.
Got you. So yeah, there are a lot of rules and regulations. We didn't want to go through all of them because it is quite a lengthy process to go through taxes. But we wanted to talk about them because we've gotten a lot of questions, especially with the previous videos that we've done. A lot of people are interested and want to incorporate their LLCs or their C Corps and their companies in the US. They find this very valuable because they can use that company in order to sell on Amazon worldwide, any marketplace. However, everybody, especially people living in the Middle East, in the UAE, are not used to paying taxes. We barely have the VAT tax. So that's why taxes is always a question, and we wanted to talk about it.
Okay. Let's put it in simple words. Let's forget about the rates I have talked about, federal, state. If you're a business owner, you have a company in US. Once you have a bank account, just go onto Google, search for a bookkeeping service. That's the first step. There are companies like TurboTax. There are other softwares like Intuit. So you can enter, QuickBooks. Intuit bought QuickBooks. That's why I didn't mention QuickBooks. So if you integrate Intuit into your bank account, all your invoices, all your business expenses, and everything else will be collected in one place. And it will be structured as an expense, as an income, and everything else that you have to put in your file in the forms that you'll submit to the federal government. Step one is done. You have your bookkeeping. It's integrated with your bank account. That's step one. Second step, once you have your bookkeeping and you have run your business for 12 months, talk with a CPA and file your taxes during the months of March and April. They will take all your bookkeeping, they'll put it together, they will organize it if it's not organized already. They will ask you simple questions like, what's your business? What's the nature of your business? What are your general expenses? And once you have an interview, let's say for 30 minutes, they will have the idea, they will do your filing. So the second step is the filing part. Do it every year, even though if it's an empty filing, it's a must. There are penalties for not doing filings. And the third step, once you do your annual filing, you have the right to file for an annual return. So most of the time we pay extra taxes just because, let's say we reside in California, we paid 10% for this, but we should have paid 8% because this changed, blah, blah, all those reasons. And the government will definitely refund you some of the tax payments you have made for the year. So these are the 3 steps. And if you're working with a CPA, you will not have to worry about anything I have said. You'll just talk to them once or a couple times over the year. With the bookkeeping you have, they will handle everything for you.
Perfect. Beautifully put.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And the price point, I would say a CPA, working with a CPA over a year would cost you anywhere between $700 to $1,000 to $2,000, depending on the size of business you bring. Since the form is long, and if you have quite a lengthy bookkeeping, so if you're selling a product that is worth $2 and you have sold 1 million products, well, you have a lot of job that a CPA has to take a look into. So the price depends on the volume of work you bring.
Yeah, but there, you know, these services are out there, so you can find them and utilize them for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
So Manoj is asking a question: is it required to register a company to sell in Amazon US? Yes, because you do require to have an EIN number, and unless you would require to have a company for sure. But the second part of the question, James, can I transfer funds from my US bank account to the UAE without any additional taxes?
While you're transferring the money, you're not paying any taxes. Let's simply put, if you have made money and it's staying in your business bank account, and if you have already accounted the fact that you will pay some taxes, like let's say 20%, and you have put that 20% aside, you can transfer the rest of the money back into UAE. You're a business owner, you are free to do so. Take into account if anyone asks where the money went and are you going to pay your taxes, well, you have to pay your taxes and you have to show that the money came to my personal bank account because I actually wanted to use it. I'm the owner of this business. That's fine.
Perfect. Well, James, thank you so much for unpacking this very tough subject. Well, it's not tough for you, of course, but this very dry subject, trademarking and taxes,
It's
very
quite
valuable
my
information. Anyone watching this session, you can easily jump on clemta.com, see their services, especially if you're interested in opening a company in the US, as well as a plethora of other business services that they have. And you can additionally contact James personally if you want any additional information. James, thank you so much for your time.
No problem at all. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And thank you for being part of the Peak.
Thank you. It's a great event. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please keep on watching the Peak. It's quite good knowledge that you''re gaining.
Thank you so much, and bye, everyone.